You didn't land here by accident. You landed here because something in your spirit has been restless, and it hasn't been able to sleep for a long time. Think about that. Not yesterday, not last week. For a while now, you've carried this quiet, heavy knowing that something bigger was supposed to happen by now, that you were supposed to be further, that life was supposed to feel different. And the strangest part? You couldn't explain it to anyone, not because you lacked the words, but because the people around you simply don't feel what you feel. They don't carry what you carry. They were never supposed to. Stay right here, because in the next few minutes, something is going to click inside of you, and once it does, nothing about your life will look the same. There's a kind of tiredness that doesn't come from sleeping wrong. It's the tiredness of waiting. The exhaustion of believing and believing and believing, while watching people who seemed less prepared, less intentional, less devoted, receive the very things you've been praying for in silence. You smiled. You kept going. You showed up again. But inside, quietly, in the moments no one was watching, you wondered if you had somehow been forgotten. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever cried without knowing exactly why? Not because of one specific thing, but because everything felt like it was building toward a weight you couldn't name? If you have, I need you to understand something right now. That wasn't weakness. That was your spirit processing something your mind couldn't yet comprehend. That was the deep, invisible work happening inside of you before the visible breakthrough arrives. Because there is a process that happens in the dark that people never see, but heaven always does. But here's what nobody tells you about that dark season. It doesn't mean you were forgotten. It means you were being formed. And what's being formed in the dark is always far more powerful than what's built in the light. Stay with me, because this next part is the part most people are not ready to hear. Have you ever noticed that your life never followed a normal script? While others seem to follow a predictable path, the right people, the right timing, the smooth road forward, yours seemed to take detours no one asked for. Detours into loneliness, into waiting rooms that lasted years, into seasons that felt like punishment for something you didn't do. And you kept looking around, wondering why you were the one being asked to endure what others were simply allowed to bypass. Here's the truth they won't say in a motivational speech. Normal paths produce normal destinations, and you were never built for a normal destination. Think about every mountain you were forced to climb alone, every door that closed without warning, every person who walked out as if your chapter in their story was finished, even though yours had barely begun. Each one of those wasn't a mistake in the universe's math. Each one was a precision cut. A sculptor doesn't touch the marble randomly. Every strike is intentional. Every fragment that falls away is supposed to fall. And what remains, after all the breaking, is the thing that was always meant to be seen. You are still in the sculptor's hands. Comment "sculpted" if this is speaking to your spirit. Wait. Pause. Think about the last 3 years of your life. Now ask yourself, how many things that felt like loss eventually revealed themselves as redirection? How many endings that nearly broke you quietly became the beginning of something you couldn't have entered any other way? Read that again slowly, because what I'm about to say next will either feel like confirmation or revelation. There is something about you that other people have always sensed, even when you couldn't feel it yourself. And I don't mean the ones who loved you, I mean the ones who didn't. Have you ever noticed that the people who rejected you, dismissed you, pushed you out of rooms, those were never ordinary people. They were the ones with power, influence, access, the ones who had something to lose. And something about your presence made them uncomfortable in ways they couldn't articulate. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Threatened people don't waste their energy on the ordinary. Nobody trains their weapon on something they're not afraid of. The very people who tried to diminish you, they saw your capacity before you owned it. They felt the magnitude of your future, and they moved preemptively, trying to eliminate something they had no power over. And here you are, still standing. Now here's where it gets dangerous.
There's a reason your path has been harder than others who seemed less spiritually intentional, less committed, less sincere. And it is not because God loves them more. It's because the enemy doesn't waste his strongest weapons on the weakest assignments. Think about that for a moment. If your life carried no real threat, if your destiny carried no real weight, the warfare would have been casual, forgettable, minor inconveniences dressed up as obstacles. But your warfare has been specific. Your warfare has targeted the exact thing you were called to do: your voice, your relationships, your confidence, your finances, your health, your peace of mind. Every attack had an address, your address. And that is terrifying and deeply confirming at the same time. Because the enemy does not waste precision on unimportant targets. If your life has been under sustained, relentless, specific attack, that is not evidence of your weakness. That is evidence of your assignment. Type "I receive" if your spirit is confirmed by this. But here's what changes everything. The warfare has an expiration date, and the next season of your life is not more waiting. It is not more preparation. It is not another layer of refinement. It is arrival. And what God has been preparing you for, quietly, invisibly, without your permission sometimes, is not what you asked for in the beginning. It is larger. Let me be direct with you right now. Most people watching this will hear these words, feel the resonance in their chest, and then go back to their regular life and shrink again by tomorrow morning. But not you. Not today. Because something shifted the moment this message found you. And the shift is not going away. Let's talk about the loneliness. Not the surface kind. The deep, inexplicable kind, where you can be surrounded by people and still feel utterly unseen, where you can be in a full room and still feel like a stranger, where you have learned to laugh at the right moments, speak the right words, perform the right version of yourself, while the truest part of you watches from somewhere behind your own eyes, waiting to be finally, fully known. That loneliness is not a character flaw. It's not anxiety. It's not evidence that something is broken in you. It is the natural experience of a person who was created to carry something most people around them were never equipped to understand. You were always operating at a frequency others couldn't receive. And so rather than explain yourself endlessly to people who could not hear you, God protected you in isolation. Not as punishment, as preparation. Because the people who are coming into your next season are not the people who were sent to your last one. The relationships you are about to enter, the connections, the collaborations, the divine alignments, those are the people who will finally receive your full frequency without flinching.
Your people are coming, and they are worth every lonely room you had to survive. If you felt this your whole life, you are not alone. Drop "found" in the comments.
Here is what I need you to receive in this exact moment. God is not done with your story. Not the edited version, not the presentable version you've learned to share in polished sentences. The real story, the full one, with the chapters that shamed you, the seasons that confused you, the prayers that felt unanswered for so long that you eventually stopped speaking them aloud. Every single chapter has been building to something you are about to walk into. And the shift is not coming in some distant, abstract future. The shift has already begun. Look at the last 60 days of your life. Something moved. Something shifted. Something opened that you hadn't expected. A conversation, a thought, a door that was cracked, a feeling you can't fully name but you know is significant. That was not random. That was announcement. Heaven announcing to your spirit that the season of preparation is closing and the season of manifestation is beginning. But here's what I've never said on this channel before. God's timing always feels late by human measurement. Always. And this is the part that will either devastate you or completely set you free. The things you have been waiting for did not arrive when you expected them, because you were not yet who was required to carry them. That sounds harsh, but it is the most generous thing heaven could have done for you. Because the version of you from 3 years ago, that version, however sincere, would have crumbled beneath the weight of what you were about to receive. The marriage, the vision, the open door, the platform, the healing, the restoration. Those things required a version of you that could hold them without destroying yourself in the process. And that version of you, the one being revealed right now, was being built in every silent, invisible, overlooked season you thought was simply suffering. Your suffering was not punishment. It was refinement. Your delays were not rejection. They were recalibration. Your silence was not absence. It was the space in which your character was expanding to match your calling. And now, right now, in this season, the match is close enough. Heaven is releasing. Press like as your agreement with this message. I need you to hear this next part with everything inside of you. You have been standing at the edge of your own life for long enough, watching from the periphery, believing for others, celebrating breakthroughs that weren't yours, waiting for a sign that was real enough to finally, completely trust. This is the sign. Not because of this video, not because of these words, but because your spirit pulled you here today, because something in you refused to keep scrolling, because some quiet, unshakable part of you already knew that this message was not accidental. You were sent here, and what you've been afraid to believe about yourself, the magnitude of it, the weight of it, the responsibility of it, that is not your ego speaking. That is the voice of the thing you were made for, finally breaking through the surface after years of being held underwater by doubt, by people, by disappointment, by your own cautious unbelief. Rise, not with arrogance, not with performance, but with the quiet, dangerous certainty of someone who finally understands that they were built for exactly this moment in history. Your gifts are not too much. Your calling is not too large. Your dreams were not planted in you to mock you. They were placed in you as blueprints, as promises, as proof. Comment "rising" if your spirit is receiving this right now. Before this season closes, something that has been withheld is about to be released into your hands. Before this year ends, someone is going to recognize in you what you have been afraid to recognize in yourself. Before the next chapter of your life fully opens, God is completing something in you today, right now, in this moment. Not because you finally earned it, but because you endured long enough to become someone capable of carrying it. Your life was never random. Every wound was a weight room. Every betrayal was a redirection. Every closed door was protection from a room you were never meant to be confined in. The world tried to reduce you because it recognized your light before you did. And now, your light is no longer containable. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your remembering. This message found you because your awakening has already begun.